Hello and welcome. This is Randy with Excel for Freelancers, and in this week's we have a Project Manager Part 1. We're going to be going over all the details of creating an amazing project manager. I can't wait to show you how this works, so let's get started. Alrighty, thank you so much for joining me on this first part of the Project Manager. In fact, this is going to be a multi-part training. We got a lot of features, and of course I'm going to be taking your suggestions of what you would like to see in a Project Manager. So make sure you go ahead and comment down below what you would like to see. I've got the basics covered, but there is a lot more to have in this. In fact, in this particular Project Manager, when you select a project from the scheduler on the right, it'll show up all of its details on the left. And of course, if you want to add a new resource or an employee or staff or whatever you want to call it, we're calling them resources here, we can simply just select it, and with the drop down list quickly add that person. You'll see that automatically the schedule gets updated. I'm going to show you how to do all that, how to create new projects, how to put them on the schedule, how to color code them so that automatically the selected project shows up in orange. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started. Before we do, I want to make sure you are aware of my amazing dashboard masterclass. If you do like these trainings, please check out the dashboard masterclass. That is a 15-hour class for single-click dashboards. It's going to let you do 4 different financial reports, and it's an amazing template and blueprint that I've used to create amazing applications as well as customer jobs, many of those in the past. So I want to make sure that you get a look at that. I'll include the links down below, so please check that out. All right, moving on, we've got a lot to show you. The basic functions of this project manager, where we have the project information, project name, project type, start date, assign. We have the ability to put a completed on date, the ability to assign 7 different resources, also known as employees or staff or however you like to call them, because you can create different types of resources, of course. We have the ability to add a duration. Now, whether that duration is days, hours, or weeks, you can quickly add it. So if we were to change this to, say, 1 week, this job, and we just automatically updated it, automatically updates on the schedule. So if we select this job and we want to add a day onto that, we just change it 6 and automatically a day is added on. Anywhere you select in that job, it's going to load. The job is automatically going, or I should say the project is automatically going to change the color to orange, so we know always the one that's been selected. So there's a lot of great features on this, and it's not very difficult to program. It's just a few formulas, some lines of code as we're going to go over, and of course an advanced filter. And it's pretty much made up of just 4 different sheets. So we have our project manager here, and as we always want to do in case we have multi-user for many reasons, separate our front end, what the user sees, to our back end, which is our database where our data is stored. In fact, this one's got 3 different data files. We've got a project list, and this is kind of a basic list. I really should update the look and feel of this. It's just a basic list, and I'll go ahead and do that while I'm working with you on that. So we'll update the look, but this is basically a list of all of our projects here. We have our resources. Now, our resources is just a list of resources. Now, we're going to probably add more information like scheduling, like availability, address. We've got so much more to add, but I just put in the names for right now, just a list of names. So I kept that pretty simple. That's, you could call them employees or staff or whatever you want, really. So automatically, and as we add items here, like as we add them, they're going to automatically appear in the project manager down here. So they get automatically added. So it's a really nice feature so that when you add them. We also have project resources. Now, this is basically the resources that are assigned to individual projects. For example, on project number 1, we have both Fred and Sally assigned to it. Project number 5, we have Leslie, we have Fred, and so this is how we keep track of who goes on what project, because we can have up to 5. So we want to create a separate database, a separate list for that. And of course, we're going to be filtering those. And then of course, like if we have a specific job that we're going to be filtering those results. So if we want to know everybody that's on job number 7, we're going to use an advanced filter. I'm going to walk you through that. So for example, the job that currently up here is project number 7 here, as you can see. So there are 2 people on it. So we did run an advanced filter, so we know how to get that. All right, so we just have those 3 databases. In fact, let me update this so it gets a nice look look and feel. Well, and also you can see how we did that. I'm going to pin this temporarily. We'll go ahead and merge and center this and increase the font to maybe 30. Just as we do, and then I'll change the font to maybe Cambria. Give it just so we can give it a little look and feel so that it matches this. But most of you know how we do this, so I don't do it too often because I want to get into the nuts and bolts of it. But you can see how I did that. We'll give it a, let's say, a green color, and then we'll use a fade. So I'm using 2 colors on the green, from medium to medium light, and then I'll use the headers here, and we'll go ahead and give it 1 green down, just so it looks a little bit nice. So you know how we do the fades, and I'll do a fill effect. And we'll use 2 different greens. We'll use the medium to light, and then of course the light green, and give it a nice fade effect. And you can do a lot more with this. We're going to be focused primarily not on the look and feel of this one, but mostly how it gets done. Because if you've followed any of my trainings before, and we're getting near 100 of those, you'll see that on some of them I do cover the look and feel, and then other times we just focus on the internals of how things work. So sometimes I do it before. All right, so that gives you a little bit of an idea. So we've got our project list. Now our project list, our database, of course, that contains our project number, which is vital and has to be unique for every project. So we've got a project number here. We've got a project name, a project type, and a start date. We have whether there's a status. We'll work on that a little bit in the future. In fact, maybe in the future we will color code based on status. That would be kind of nice. We can also color code maybe on project type, so we can color. Right now I kept them pretty simple. The projects are green color, but if we select them, they're orange. But I think in the future parts, maybe we're going to color based on either status or project type. So we have different colors for different project types. So I think that would be something nice. We also have a description, and then we have the duration and duration type. So 2 weeks, 2 days, or a few hours or something like that. And then we have duration days and end dates, and both of those are based on a formula. But these are based on formulas, and of course they're based on the number of duration and the duration type. So we want the total days, and what I do is I extract the days from whether weeks or days or hours, and then we also get an end date, and basically is the number of days plus the start on. Right, so if the start on is 20, we're going to finish on the end date on the 3rd. And that's basically we're just adding D4, and I'll show you how we do that, adding D4 to the number of days. And then I've used an if statement here in the duration date. Let's zoom that in a little bit so you can see it. And so here we have the formula here. If I4 equals days, if it's days, then H4, then we're good to go with the number. But if it's weeks, we're going to multiply the number by 7. Obviously, there's 7 days in a week, and I want to get days. And then, of course, if it's number of hours, I want to do dividing. I want to divide, because 1 day, if it's 1 day, it's 1/124th of a day. And if it's, of course, if it's 12 hours, it's going to be half a day. So we use that formula to pull the number of days, and that way we can easily allow the user to select between weeks, days, or hours. So this database for this project list is very simple, and we have data mapping here, and we're going to go over that. And we've got data mapping from columns A to I4, and I'm going to show you exactly how that works through the code. And of course, we've got our main screen, our project manager. Now we have the ability to add a project simply by clicking add a project, and if we want to assign, we can call this new website. If we're having a website company, and maybe we can call this new site as a type, and then we could give it a start date, let's say on the 2nd of January. I'll probably put a pop-up calendar here. I think it would make sense, but right now I have not. I'll just focus on that status, and let's just call it pending. And we don't want to give it a completed date, and we see that David and Mark both have times on their schedule, so we can assign it to David. And it's going to be a 3-day job, so we'll put in 3 days. And that's it. I also want to add in attachments in the future. This is just a space. It's not done yet. We're going to cover that. So I want the project to have multiple attachments and a preview. So I've added this space down here, but I've got a lot to show you, so I haven't added the attachments feature, and yeah, we'll do that in part 2 or part 3, or based on your suggestions. Okay, so we've got everything filled out that we need to fill out. Now all we need to do is click the Save Project, and you'll see right away it appears on the schedule. Now, of course, if we want to increase that, now that we save, if we want to change that to 5 days, all we need to do is just change it automatically, and it's increased automatically on the schedule. So that's a really great feature. I'm going to show you exactly how we did. We can also add a new person to it. It would say it's a big job, and we want to add, we see Mark has time in his schedule, so we can click on Mark, and automatically Mark is added to it. We don't have to save it, we don't have to click anything, so it's automatically saved. New jobs, if it's a new project, we do have to save it for those changes, because users may cancel, right? They may decide not to add it. But when it's an existing job, all we need to do is simply make the change. In fact, if we want to remove Mark, we just hit delete, and then automatically Mark is removed from the schedule. So it's these kinds of types of applications, once they get made, they're really easy to work with, really easy to use. So I can't wait to show you exactly how we did it. Of course, we have the ability to go previous month. I don't have any particular jobs on December. And of course, when we go previous month, we need to change the month, and we need to change the year. So we also have the ability to change the year here by clicking it, but actually I haven't added in the ability. I could probably do that here on training. So the schedule doesn't update. Let's do that right now. On change of R2 or X2, we want the schedule to update. On a change of either one of these, we want to run a macro. Let's do that now because it's not working. I haven't added that in yet, so we'll do that right. So we're going to go into the Developers tab. If you don't have the Developers tab available, make sure you click on the File, and of course we'll click on Options, and then in the Customize ribbon, make sure that you have selected Developer to get yours. Alt F11 will also get you into the VBA, and you can click here, Visual Basic, to get you in there. We're going to focus on Project Manager. Now we've got a lot of code in here. I'm going to go that step by step with you, but let's add in just the code we talked about. We have a macro called Project Schedule Load. I'm going to show you how that works, and we'll go step by step through that macro. But right now, all I want to do is add a change event. Change event. And what kind of change? Well, that was R2. If we make a change, if the user makes a change to either R2 on sheet 1 or X2, R2 or X2, then I want to load the schedule. So let's just do that right now. So we can do if not, and that's auto hotkey that automatically type that, R2, comma, X2. If the user makes changes any one of those, then what? Then we're going to schedule load. Then we're going to run this particular macro, and that's going to refresh the schedule. Now when we head back into the schedule, and all we have to do is double click inside here, and it'll automatically update with the new information based on the date. So we can move ahead as we move to February or then back to January. So we can use previous and next month to update the schedule as well. All right, let's get into the nuts and bolts and see just how we did that. We've got some more information to show you. I've got a few lists. One is which months, and I've had the months of January to December, and we've titled that, of course, month. So I've given that a named range as month. And of course, also years. Here we've got years from 2019 through 2030, and I've called that years. And then, of course, here in R2, I've given it a data validation here, and the data validation here, of course, is months here. And then, of course, here in the year, I've given that a data validation as years. So when you see the data validation here, that's going to be years. All right, so you've seen how we get the drop-down list, and now you've seen how we update the schedule. And so we have those named ranges. And of course, I've got the project load is false. Now, I want to differentiate when the project is loading. The loading means when I click here. When I click here, that's going to go to true real quick and back. And that's because I want to differentiate between the types of changes in these cells. For example, some change, this type of change I want saved, a test. So when I click this as a test, I want that type of change to save in the database. So when we look in number 10, we'll see that this is a test. It's been updated here in the database. But the type of change, of course, when we load a site, when we select a specific project to load, that, of course, it's not, that type of change is not. So we use project load, and I'll show you it in the code, but we use this true or false to differentiate between those changes. I also want to know if it's a new project or not, because if it's a new project, for example, when I click add project, this goes to true. So that means I know that if we make a change here, we're not going to save those changes to this database until the user clicks save, And of course, if they click cancel new, I want everything to go back to false. And we're going to just load a random, or probably the last specific project that was saved. We're going to load that. So we have those two things. So a new project. I also want to know the project row. And what is the project row? The project row